Hello World Wide Web, I'm Dr. Shado, the internet personality with the best hair, and welcome to the little reaction review for Five Nights at Freddy's that recently came out on theaters on Peacock. I saw it on Peacock. Yeah, I still have my Peacock. First of all, I should mention that because this is a secondary side thing, this is not the direction my content is going. This is just something I'm doing as well as the regular content, for those of you who get worried. And for those of you wondering where is my regular content, it's currently held up by a copyright claim, and I'm working on that, and I really wish it should have been up days ago, but it's still being held. We'll see how long that takes. Nevertheless, Five Nights at Freddy's. You know how these videos work. I'm going to start off trying to be as spoiler-free as possible, and then towards the second half of the video, I'm going to break into spoiler territory. Now, first thing that I should point out is I did not follow the games, so I'm not 100% on how accurate the lore is. But I did hear a bit of rumbling in the critic circles where this is getting, getting certified rotten. This is terrible to just spend way too much time on lore, and I don't know what they're talking about because I was not at all lost in this movie. I feel like the movie's a little long for the amount of lore actually in it. It really could have been a little bit more, because I feel like there's a lot in the movie that it could have been more. It's a very well put together movie, but it could have been scarier, it could have had more scares, and it could have had more lore. Like, there is a part where a little bit of mystery comes up, which is not mysterious at all, because there's only so many options you have, because it's a movie. It's gonna be one of the options, and big surprise, it was the only option. So, I mean, there's that. But I should talk about, like, the general experience. How well does it do as a horror movie, specifically one based on a video game? Now, I can't say that I am 100% on the lore, but I have existed on the internet for the last 10 years. I know what Five Nights at Freddy's is. I have an idea of the basic lore, and it does seem to follow that effectively. There's no thing where they're just gonna come up with a big new like the thing where a lot of video game movies do, where they just create a new MacGuffin that is super important and deathly, just absolutely the heart of the plot and drives everything forward, and it happens to be something invented entirely for the movie. If there is something like that in this, it's something a little more minor. It's not absolutely the integral to the plot. The basic things really seem to follow the standard Five Nights at Freddy's lore. Spare the fact that for some reason the security guards seem to not really have that big of a problem surviving this. But there's reasons. Overall, the one thing that I think that it did very well, that a lot of movies really don't do, is as a horror movie, it's supposed to have us care about the characters, so we actually are slightly worried if something happens to them, rather than do what a lot of horror movies do, which is you have to make the people who die earn their death. Therefore, that's the only time they spend any time on, which means we're just ending up rooting for the killer. I don't really root for the killer much. There's a time when you do, but usually not. You're usually not rooting for the animatronics. Usually, when the people are in danger, you're like, hey, I'd rather them not die. That would be the best outcome for them on this day, and I am somewhat attached to that character. So, it does, it does dive a lot into the backstories, of course, for all of the characters present, and I don't think it does that to any kind of excessive degree. It's just a movie talking about weird supernatural stuff that involves a lot of things happening in the past, and things tend to be interwoven in a certain way there. I expected a lot of jump scares out of this because it's a Five Nights at Freddy's movie, and the entire game series is built on two big pillars. Number one, animatronics look kind of creepy. Number two, jump scares. That's what it is. Boom, screaming in your face, flashy lights, all that stuff. And to that end, I was going into this expecting there was going to be a lot of jump scares, and I don't care for jump scares, and I was thinking to myself, like, I'm gonna try and not hold that against it. Honestly, there were a lot less jump scares than I was expecting. Now, there were a few, and it was only a couple of them that really kind of annoyed me, where it seemed to do the general horror movie thing of a jump scare for the sake of a jump scare, because it's about time we have a jump scare just to keep the audience, just to remind them that they're watching a horror movie in case they forgot. And it just absolutely, leads nowhere, just a little whoo. And yeah, there's a couple of those, and those still annoyed me, but most, other than those two, which both have the same face, so you'll be able to recognize them, the other ones weren't terrible. They were just, they were adequate jump scariness. Not bad, not great. The animatronic movements, they're creepy. And it's done pretty well. Is, of course, said you know the story of Five Nights at Freddy's. Is that a spoiler to talk about the basic story of Five Nights at Freddy's? Because everyone has heard this for the last... How long? Five Nights at Freddy's been out? Like the game? It's a while. Long while. But the animatronics kill people. That's what they do. You're like, hey, you scared of God? Gotta kill you. That's the basic story. And that's kind of the story here. But it's not so heavy on the your security guard, we gotta kill you, which explains why he seems to survive several of those nights by just, effectively sleeping on the job. Like, he's not doing nothing here, not doing any kind of security. He's actually really bad at his job, and still manages to live. Anyone who's made it past night 1 in the game knows it takes a little bit more than that. But, oh well. He's got that thing set to easy mode. Every game nowadays just plays itself, let's be honest here. So, yeah, the basic setup has the markings of a... it was decent for general writing. You had the character introductions, which did actually work to make me care for the characters. You had the call to action. You had refusing the call, and you had an actual decent explanation as to why, boom, we go back. It wasn't just I'm refusing the call for the sake of it. It's like, I actually, really, totally do not want this ever in my life. And then it's like, but with this taken into account, I have to. So I still really don't want to, but here I am. It was a decent way of having that aspect of the hero's journey take place. But, yeah, like I said, the lore, it's not too deep, in my opinion. It reiterates the same point several times, though, and that's where it's like, when it does add a little bit each time, and there is, I just feel like it didn't have to be almost 2 hours at that. The plot could have fit into 80 minutes. Easily. But it wasn't, bad. It was just not great. It was okay. Five Nights at Freddy's is it's a horror movie, and it's Five Nights at Freddy's. It does the job. It looks very good. Visually, it is a fantastic flick. The animatronics look good. They are creepy. The set is interesting and varied enough. The overall visual style throughout the movie is very consistent, and it works. It's just, besides looking really good, the overall way it handles the story and storytelling and the payoffs, it just kind of does enough, in my opinion. It's not a huge eye-opening masterpiece of, oh my god. Really like Matthew Lillard in it. Really liked him. But everything else is just kind of did the job. There were some standout performances and some not so standout performances, and that kind of evens each other out. Main character guy, very good. Main cop character, not so good. Without getting into spoilers, I think that's about the best I can do there. So let us put a bow on it and give this a good 3 out of 5, I'd say. It's a decent horror flick. If you like Five Nights at Freddy's, you're probably going to be like, this looks good, but you might still be disappointed that it doesn't dive deeper than it already does. And if you're just into horror, I feel like this is an enjoyable thing to check out, but you might find it a bit long for exactly what it gives you. Okay, so now breaking into the spoilers. Hey, the animatronics kill people. And there's the main character guy comes into this, and he's there like, all right, I am a security guard. I'm a security guard at a mall. And I still ran into trouble because I thought I saw someone kidnapping a kid, so I beat the crap out of him. But it turns out that was actually the kid's father. I guess mom was calling off screen or something, but it was a big misunderstanding. And as a result, there's just this big, he's like, okay, well, the only thing that'll take you now with this kind of track record happens to be working as security guard at Freddy Fazbear's. It's been shut down for a while, but what do you do? Which he doesn't want to do. But we see with some repeating dream sequences, the reason this man became a security guard is because way back when he was but a lad, his brother was kidnapped when he was supposed to be watching him. And he's been spending his whole life trying to remember who was the man who kidnapped his brother. But nothing he can do about that right now, and he's got his little sister there that he's got to take care of, and he's like, nah, this is the only job I can have, but I don't want it. Screw that job. And so then they come around like, hey, actually, your aunt, who is terrible and wants to, because your little sister there has a mental disability or something. I don't know. She gets government checks for some reason. And your aunt's sister, someone, bad, evil relative, they want the government check. They want the money. Even though if they're well off, that means that they're not going to be entitled to that anyway, because it's only going to be if they need. Okay, but let's just say, let's just go with how the movie presents it. Bad person wants kid for money. So he needs to take care of kid, but no, he doesn't have a job, and that's going to look really bad in court. So the only job available happens to be working security at Fazbear's. Who'da thunk it? So that's how he ends up there, and it's kind of normal, but now his dreams involve a bunch of extra kids who he doesn't recognize all of a sudden. And they're not really forthcoming with him. They don't like him very much. But then, next thing you know, this cop shows up out of the blue like, hey, how's it going? I'm a cop. I like this place. I used to come here as a kid. Here's the backstory for this. Here's the backstory for that. There's the backstory there. It's great. You're probably going to quit here, but there's no big problem. No big deal. Nothing to worry about. But then, the evil relative. Turns out that they are in cahoots with the babysitter that the guy has been working with, and they also have several other goons. And they're like, okay, so they have that job. If they don't have that job, it's very bad for them, and we can get the kid and get the money. So, if we were to break in there and absolutely wreck the place and rob the place while he's supposed to be the security guy, that would look very bad for him. So, we're going to do just that, and it's going to be great. So, they go do just that. But it doesn't turn out so well as the animatronics come to life and kill them, and we're cheering for the animatronics the whole time, like, yeah, yum. So that runs into the little issue that now the babysitter's dead. Oopsie-daisy. Don't have anyone to watch this kid while I go to work, so I gotta bring the kid to work. But then the kid, with their thing where they talk to people who aren't there and they draw a lot of pictures, it just so happens that they're able to talk to the dead kids who are there and draw pictures, which is the way that children express ideas and things to each other most effectively, as established earlier in the movie. And what do you know? She becomes friends with all the animatronics because the ghosts are there. The kids died, and their ghosts are haunting the animatronics and stuff. And the cop lady's there like, yeah, I knew about that, but it's a bad thing. Don't like, still not great. Now, he's there, he's still having his dreams, and he's like, okay, I could strike a deal with the ghost kids. If they can tell me who it is that stole my brother, I can really use that information. It'll be great. And after a little bit of time, the ghost kids come back and they're like, hey, let's be honest here. You don't want to know who stole your brother. You want your brother back. Is the deal. We'll change your dream, your recurrent dream every night. You're just going to hang out with your brother, with your parents. Everyone's alive. Everything's great. You're just going to have a nice picnic every night from now on. One caveat, we need a payment for that. How's your little sister? And he's there like, yeah, sounds about right. Oh, wait, no, actually, no. And then they're already gone, and then like, crap, what am I doing? And they're like, hey, let's kill her. It's gonna be great. We're gonna make her into an animatronic. It's gonna be fantastic. And then the cop lady's there like, should have mentioned, it's not just the ghosts that are in the animatronics. It's actually the bodies as well. That's how they do it. They just jammed in there. Yeah. So you gotta go there. You gotta fight the animatronicators and stuff. And then she there like, I need to tell you, the person who killed the children, the person who set all this up, was the person who owned Freddy Fazbear's, who's the person who is dressed as the Yellow Rabbit. It is my father. And she has a picture of her with the Yellow Rabbit Man. But she's also holding a little boat, and the boat is important because the boat was there in the dream as the boy was being stolen by the mysterious man in the car. So, the Yellow Rabbit Man also is the man who kidnapped his brother. And he's like, you son of a... And so, after all of that is said and done, it's like, oh, I gotta save her. The animatronics are trying to kill her. The guy comes, he's there like real bad, nasty. Yellow Rabbit shows up. He's here, and he's there like, I got this taser. It's good against animatronics. He shoots the guy. Guy smacks it away, because he's not an animatronic. He is a man in a suit. And then he takes off his mask, and it's Matthew Lillard. Now, we gotta roll back a bit. I gotta explain some things. Matthew Lillard actually turns out to be the boss of the guy. He gave him the job down here at Fazbear's in the first place, as the security guy. Turns out he was the former/current owner, and he also was the man who kidnapped his brother. He's done a lot of things. It's also kind of obvious with the fact that he's also like one of the only other characters in the movie. But, I mean, unless it was the little sister's teacher. Like, that could have been it, but it wouldn't have made any sense. So he's there, but the great thing is it's Matthew Lillard, and he plays it up great. So they're there, and it's like, what do we do? He is like super strong rabbit man. The animatronic suit of super strength, I don't know. Like, he was, maybe it's just that he was Matthew Lillard. He's just really, his charisma is just, he was only using 2% of his power, and it was, he was unstoppable. But pictures are the key to communicating with children, and those are child ghosts inside the animatronics. So the little daughter changes the picture of the Yellow Rabbit being all happy and like, yay, I'm a friend of everyone, to being the one who killed them all. Which is true, and you'd think they'd remember, but they were having trouble with it until she kind of was like, look, see, remember that? And they're like, oh yeah! And so they turned on the Yellow Rabbit and crushed him inside of his own like animatronic suit thingy. It's kind of ironic. The end. So it's, you know, overall pretty easy to say exactly what happened there. And I feel like the scares were all right, but it felt a bit sparse. Jump scares were surprisingly less than I thought, but there were several of them. It was just like, that didn't have to be there. And the lore, pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Really not as crazy lore heavy as a lot of critic reviews seem to be saying, but Oh, I still enjoyed my time with the Five Nights at Freddy movie. And, yeah, 3 out of 5, kind of average okay. Maybe upon further viewings, I'll find more things that I'm like, and I don't like that. But for now, I'm like, it's all right. Nevertheless, if you are interested in another take on a Five Nights at Freddy's movie, well, I did review the Nicolas Cage Willy's Wonderland. That one, yes, that. Reviewed that. It's a little more straightforward, a lot less lore, a lot more scares, in my opinion. Or, of course, as the algorithmically selected recommended video. Whatever works for you. And hopefully, very soon, my actual review will be free of the copyright stuff. I'm going to be working on the next one anyway. We'll just see what happens.